My dad's affair partner didn't let anyone get to know my half-sister her entire life because the entire family was pissed at her about the affair, and now she's pissed that my grandparents are helping me buy an apartment and cries that no one wants to help my half-sister. Posted by you/National Property 34. So my 20F dad is with his affair partner, Laura. He and Laura have a kid, Lucy, 13F. Lucy was conceived after my dad and Laura had already been together for a while. Her birth wasn't the reason my parents split, in case anyone is wondering. But obviously, my dad's family knew about the affair once my parents split, and they banned Laura from ever attending family events. To this day, the only people on that side of the family who have met her are me and my one cousin, who came to stay with me at my dad's for a few days once. My grandparents told Dad they'd happily be active in Lucy's life, but it would have to be Dad who facilitated the relationship, meaning he'd have to bring her to see them alone. Laura said no. I guess she thought eventually she'd force herself into the family through Lucy, but all it did was mean no one ever met Lucy. My dad would take me to my grandparents' or aunt's place without Laura and Lucy, and that was just how it went. Well, it recently came up that my grandparents were giving me money toward buying an apartment when I graduate, which set Laura off. She's always been bitter that my grandparents financed my schooling but my dad paid for university. She was passive-aggressively grumbling at the dinner table that this is why she felt we could have asked them to pay for my university and that it would be nice if Lucy got to have grandparents, but some people are petty and cruel. I looked at my dad like, are we really playing that game? But he didn't say anything. Then Laura turns to Lucy and goes, you should know none of this is your fault. Life isn't fair, and you got the short end of the stick with certain family members. So I just said, yeah, the short end of the stick family member is you, Laura. Lucy could have had the same relationship with my grandparents that I do, but you were so selfish that you screwed your own kid out of that. Laura argued that no one who hated her could have a relationship with her daughter, so I was like, well, what are you mad about then? That your principals ended up sabotaging your kid? Maybe that's on you. At this point, my dad was giving me a death stare, so I just went back to my food. Laura sent me a text later that night about how much she didn't appreciate me saying that in front of her child and that it was her prerogative how she managed that relationship. She also said my dad's family are cruel and vindictive. I didn't reply, and honestly, the only reason I don't have her blocked is in case my dad is taken ill suddenly. But now my dad is saying it's caused issues at home because Lucy is finally grasping that Laura is the one who wouldn't allow her to have a relationship with Dad's side and is now apparently pretty mad about it. He's saying the way I went at Laura was inappropriate in front of a child and that Lucy shouldn't have heard all that, but I think she only heard it because her mother was retconning reality. I didn't mean to cause an issue between Lucy and Laura, but honestly, I do feel like Laura was asking for it by acting like an idiot in front of someone who knew the whole story. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Not the jerk. She's 13, and it's better she knows her mom was the issue and not her child's self. I wouldn't be surprised if she starts asking you for hard truths going forward because her mom spins things so she's always the victim. I assume Lucy knows her mom was an affair partner initially? I can't imagine the fantasy her mom spun about them being destined and that not even a wedding ring could stop their love. It sucks that the rest of the family cut her loose to avoid her mother. She's innocent, and too many kids end up ostracized in this kind of situation when the rage and freeze-out should have been saved for the actual guilty parties. Ops response. I honestly couldn't answer this. I barely see Lucy and Laura. I presume she does? I remember I threatened to tell her when I was like 14, but I never did. But obviously, she was way younger then. She probably knows now. Commenter 2. You told her the truth, and she is now dealing with the fallout of her actions. Your grandparents are allowed to have a boundary about who they want at their house or around them. And your stepmom is allowed to not like it and keep her kid away from them. But she isn't allowed to rewrite reality to fit her narrative. Your dad is also a problem. He should have shut her down when she started talking about his parents in front of his children but didn't. You standing up for your grandparents when she is bad-mouthing them is understandable. I feel bad for your sister. Because of her mom, she doesn't know a lot of her family. Hopefully, now that she finally knows why she doesn't know them, she will be able to talk her dad into taking her to see them without her mom. Ops response. Yeah, this is how I feel. I don't begrudge Laura her boundary, a lot of mothers have that boundary, I think. But it has to be a boundary, not an attempt at blackmail. They just took her at her word. Commenter 3. Laura brought it up in front of the child. Laura was using the child's feelings as a weapon for her snide comments. Laura used the child as a pawn. Laura is somehow shocked her monologue became a dialogue. Laura is a fool. Your dad allowed this to happen to his child. Once again, your dad allowed his child to be negatively impacted by the selfish, Self-satisfying actions of adults. Your dad is a selfish person. Your dad is okay with his children being deeply, emotionally wounded. Your dad is a fool. Both are now seeing the results. And now both are deflecting and denying their roles. Shame on them. They set up the child for an adulthood of therapy, because I'd bet my shoe that child is not in therapy. Not the jerk. Op's response. My dad is the most selfish person I've ever come across. My dad and I actually went to therapy together, that's why I still have a relationship with him. I understand him and expect absolutely nothing from him. Because although he does really try to care, his care only goes as far as it doesn't inconvenience him, and that will never change. Commenter 4. Laura brought all of it up in front of her daughter, so that's on her. She could have easily asked you to talk in private. But she didn't. I guess you were just supposed to listen to her insult your family, and she thinks you should just take it. Nope. It's her prerogative how she manages all her relationships. It's your prerogative to respond to her nasty comments, as long as you aren't directly cruel to Lucy. You didn't curse, you didn't say Lucy is a terrible kid. You, understandably, in my opinion, stated that the lack of a relationship with your father's family is a reflection of how her relationship with your father began, as deceitful and hurtful to your mother. Actions meet consequences. Question: how does your father's family react to him? Op's response: they kind of cut him out for a while, like they'd only speak to him or invite him to family events if he brought me. That went on for a few years. And then eventually it was a bit like, he's a piece of crap, but he's our brother/son. Which is the way it goes in our family. Not saying if you do something violent or criminal it's swept under the rug, obviously not, but nobody goes no contact just because someone's a jerk. You just don't talk to them much. And one of my aunts doesn't talk to my dad much, and he's not really that close to my grandma. But it's not like a full cut-off thing. We don't really do that. Why doesn't Op facilitate a meeting between Lucy and their grandparents? Because that's not my place. Lucy is a minor, her parents decide who she can see and where she can go. I may think Laura is an idiot, but she's the mother here. I'm not close to Lucy at all. Before this, I hadn't spoken to her in 18 months. I don't actually live in the same city as them anymore, but even when I did, we were never alone together. I'm not going to insert myself now just to stick it to Laura, that's not right, in my opinion. Where are Laura's parents in this? Laura doesn't talk to her parents. Her dad was some kind of psycho, like DV and all sorts. I guess the mother picked him over her kids. Commenter 5. Did Laura consider that your grandparents may offer you support and money to help make up for the fact that their doofus of a son broke up your home? Op's response: my grandparents did it for all the grandkids. It's so that we all went to the family alma mater high school. My dad isn't broke, but he doesn't have that kind of money lying around. Op adds an edit to her post. Just to clarify, no, my dad's family didn't immediately forgive him. For a long time, they only invited him to things if he brought me during his custody time. But time heals most things. They all still think he's a prick, but honestly, I'm sure they thought that before. No, they haven't totally cut him out because we're just not that kind of family. But Laura was never family to start with, so it's way easier to never make her acquaintance than to cut out your blood relative that you've known for 40 years. I think that's fairly obvious. I am not mad that Laura set the boundaries she did, and I'm not mad my parents got divorced. I got mad that Laura set a totally fair boundary, that my dad went along with, not saying he's blameless, he's just not the one actively complaining, and then tried to pretend that the consequences of said boundaries shouldn't have happened. If you don't want your kid around people who don't like you, understandable. Why are you whining that they're not around for your kid? Update 2 weeks later. I'm not sure anyone wanted an update, but I like to read post updates, so I thought I'd drop one. First thing that happened, Laura would not stop texting me. Not constantly, but once or twice a day about her feelings or demanding a response/conversation. This middle-aged woman having a crash out via WhatsApp was not on my bingo card, but eventually, I just had to tell her I didn't want to block her because I do want to be there for my dad in an emergency. But I was going to if she didn't stop bothering me. More crash-out material. I called my dad and told him to get his household under control because this was getting crazy. I wasn't going to apologize to her, and in my whole life, I've never had as much contact with this woman as I had in the past week, and I wouldn't allow it to continue. My dad was kind of getting that it was an actual issue now, and I pushed him a bit, and the dam broke. So, the wider context I was not aware of is that Lucy is only now putting the pieces together of how Dad and Laura got together. She vaguely knew about the affair, but I guess she's finally getting what that means now that she's older and how much damage it did, and she's been asking a lot of hard questions about it and has been really down about it. That's probably why Lara was so triggered by the mention of my grandparents and in a rush to put her spin on it. But since the dinner, Lucy has really been raking Lara over the coals for it, apparently, because she knows my dad would have let her see the extended family were it not for Lara. My dad also shared that Lara basically feels like she's spent a large chunk of her life being punished for the affair, and it's weighing on her because of how hard Lucy is taking it. Side note, a lot of people were rightly roasting my dad for the affair, but if the above should prove anything, it's how much he is the definition of a cockroach. The way this man manages to get away with diabolical behavior relatively unscathed is shocking. The second thing that my dad said, and uncharacteristically admitted was a F up, was telling Lara that probably part of the reason no one ever eased up on meeting her was because they all knew I can't stand her. And I hold my hands up because I did a lot of bad-mouthing Lara back in the day to my grandparents and aunts because, well, I don't like her, and when you're a teenager, you think that needs to be everyone's problem. I don't think this is as big a reason they still won't meet her as my dad probably made it seem, but he did admit he threw me under the bus for it ages ago, and Lara has never forgotten it. She thinks me poisoning the well is the whole problem. So that's probably got a lot to do with her complaining at me specifically. My dad did acknowledge that it was a mistake to tell her what was said, and while I wouldn't go around talking bad about Lara now, I don't feel bad about sharing my feelings with my family at the time. I did ask my dad if Lucy was going to be allowed contact with the grandparents, but Lara is still saying no. However, he said she's close to cracking just because of how much of a hard time Lucy is giving her, so he's going to wait it out. In the meantime, I haven't heard from Lara in a couple of days now, which is what I mainly wanted from the situation. I don't know what else to put in this update. If anyone has any lingering questions, feel free to ask, but if not, thanks for the advice. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Sounds like stepmom effed around and found out. Honestly, don't bother anymore. It's not going to solve anything, just give her more ammunition. But if she continues bothering you, let Lara know that she's just feeling the consequences of her actions. And if she has an issue, provide her with a box of tissues and say, "Scram, not going to miss you." Ops response. Unfortunately, if she keeps bothering me, I'm going to have to block her, which just feels like such a bad idea in case something ever happened to my dad, but hopefully, she has realized I have no interest in being involved now. Why is Op keeping her father and Lara in her life? Lara is not in my life. Prior to the dinner in the original post, I hadn't seen her in a year and a half, and I never speak to her if I can help it. My dad is in my life because, despite his immeasurable selfishness, he's not all bad. He's tried his best to be a good dad, and there are a lot of things I love and appreciate about him. He's not winning any parenting awards, but he has always shown up for me, practically and emotionally, and I consider him a net positive addition to my life. Does Lucy own a phone? Cannot block Lara but keep communication open with Lucy? She's 13, I'm sure she has a phone. I don't have the number, though. To be honest, in an emergency, I don't think it's appropriate for it to be a child's responsibility to inform family. But if I have to block Lara in the future, I'll make sure my dad adds me or one of my aunts as an emergency contact so we don't have to rely on Lara. Commenter 2. Where is your mom in all this? Is she in contact with your paternal family? Sorry, Op. I feel bad for Lucy, but Lara shows typical cheater entitled behavior. Oh, it's everybody's fault but mine. Op's response. My mom is remarried and very happy, haha. She had some contact with my dad's family when I was younger from bringing me around, etc., but she hasn't stayed in touch since I was able to make my own plans. How is Op's relationship with Lucy? Are they close? I don't have a relationship with her, honestly. Big age gap, plus I was rarely at my dad's, can't stand her mother, etc. I don't live locally to them either. But even if I did have a relationship with her, I wouldn't sneak a meeting with my grandparents. I don't think that's appropriate at all. Lara is still the parent. I wouldn't go around undermining her decisions. That wouldn't sit right with me, even if I don't like her. Commenter 3. Your dad is also kind of spineless though, isn't he? He could have put his foot down and demanded Lucy have a relationship with the extended family, but he's Lara's little bee, isn't he? Op's response. He's not spineless so much as he is committed to doing whatever is best/easiest for him. He doesn't want to spend the energy fighting with Lara over this because it doesn't benefit him. When he actually wants something, the spine shines up, let me tell you.